access the YouTube feed through our court website, and I will let you know. It is setting up the meeting, and we'll go from there. All right, YouTube is up and running. Access the YouTube feed through our court website, and I will let you know. It is setting. You got to hear the tape delay nature of that. See if I can get back to Zoom here. Okay, great. Mr. Forte, are you able to hear us?
Yes, Judge.
Great. Well, I'll let you know when we're going on the record. We're just going to talk logistics for a minute. Excuse me, there are a bunch of calendars, and I want to make sure we've got the right folks for the right calendars, and then we will dive into this. When we get to something that needs to be taken down, I'll be sure to let you know that, Mr. Forte. I have a probation revocation calendar, an inquiry calendar, an add-on inquiry calendar, and a status hearing calendar. Is there anyone here who has a calendar beyond that? Or does that cover the waterfront? All right. The probation revocation calendar, the first position, Mr. Smith, was Mr. Hudson's client way back when. Has someone taken over representation of Anthony Smith? Yes, Mr. Franklin. Great. Okay. Just want to make sure we've got the lawyers we need. Gary Tinsley. Who's handling Mr. Tinsley? Again, Mr. Franklin. All right. Silent but busy. And then there was one other probation revocation matter that is on the inquiry calendar, and that's Darnell Presley. I think you're going to handle that, Mr. Franklin. You've got his new case, and the old case was a Dante Hudson matter, but are you taking care of all of Mr. Presley's business? Take that as a yes. Okay, good. Then I think we've got the attorneys we need. Mr. Mapp, I'm going to find out where he is. He is on our inquiry calendar. Mr. Adams, you represent Mr. Mapp?
Yes, I have filed an entry of appearance on that, Your Honor.
Okay, great. And then Ms. Clark, good afternoon to you. Thank you for joining us. You are on for Javante Avery?
Correct, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay. So my thought would be that we deal with Mr. Mapp and then Mr. Avery. That way we can get Mr. Adams and Ms. Clark on their way, and then we'll turn to the remaining positions. Any objection to that, or anyone have a different schedule?
No objection.
No objection.
No,
Ms. Singleton, good afternoon. Are you on solely for the Avery matter?
Yes, Your Honor. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Well, that's another person who we can get on her way if we handle that. Well, we'll start with Mr. Mapp, and we'll go on the record. When you're ready, Mr. Forte, just raise your hand. All right. This is position 2 on our add-on inquiry calendar, State versus Larion Mapp, 20 SC 174765. He is charged with armed robbery, several counts of armed robbery, and some other charges. There was a warrant for him, and we need to work through what the next steps are for Mr. Mapp. Ms. Hall, was this a, if you know, was this a bench warrant, or was this a grand jury warrant because it's a direct indictment, or why was Mr. Mapp picked up?
Your Honor, I believe this was a direct indictment, and when we had court, the last time we had court, he hadn't been arrested at that point. Okay, so this would be effectively Mr. Mapp's initial appearance. If we were in normal times, we'd be seeing Mr. Mapp on a plea and arraignment calendar? That's correct, Your Honor. Okay. Well, Mr. Adams, tell me what you were hoping that we would do today in connection with Mr. Mapp.
Well, we can go ahead and waive arraignment, Your Honor, and plead not guilty, and ask for 10 days to file motions, and would like to be heard on bond. I've discussed it with Ms. Hall, and I don't think there's a problem.
Okay, I'm just looking here at the docket in Mr. Mapp's case. So he was indicted in January of this year. It looks like the allegations involve activity that occurred in December of last year. So it's not distant activity. Okay. So Mr. Adams, I don't see in the docket a bond motion. That doesn't mean we can't talk about it, but of course I'm going to ask Ms. Hall if she's had a chance to reach out to the alleged victims in the case so that they could contribute their perspective. Ms. Hall, tell me where you and Ms. Rolak are in that process.
Thank you, Your Honor. So yes, Your Honor, we have had a chance to speak with the victims. I actually spoke with them in court before we went into quarantine. They showed up to the last court date when Mr. Mapp had not been arrested. They are actually the Ms. Lopez, and Mr. Lopez is actually on the line with Ms. Rolak. They I don't know if it's appropriate to give the victims the link to Zoom or if they're going to watch through YouTube as well. But however the courts want that to play out, if we can provide them the link for the YouTube, they can either chime in that way, or I'm not sure how we're handling the victims, but they are here today.
Okay, so a couple things for future reference for you and Ms. Rolak. The YouTube feed is available to anyone and everyone whenever any of the judges choose to push their Zoom video conference through YouTube. Every judge has that technical capability now. They may not know how to do it, but the teaching is out there. I'm now streaming this one live, and so the two individuals you mentioned are free to get to that, and I'll chat, I think that's the feature here. I'll chat the link to everyone in just a minute. It's on the court's website. It's not secret. It is on the, Fulton County Courts. On the court's website, there is a tab that says live hearings, and here is the link, and then they would just click on McBurney and they'll get to see what we're doing. But let me see if I can, there, I have now, through the chat feature of Zoom, sent to everyone the link. And if that's too many letters and words for folks, if you just go to fultoncourt.org, at the top there are 5 or 6 tabs, and one of them is live hearings. You click on that, and that gets you to a list of all the judges. You click on the judge's name, and you are now watching and hearing everything we're doing right now. That is the best way for folks who are concerned for whatever reason. They are friends or supporters of the accused, they are victims, they're friends or supporters of the victims, to watch what's going on. That said, Ms. Rolak, of course, remains free to relay to me the thoughts and concerns of the two individuals she has connected with, as we have in the past. Okay? Great.
Yeah.
So does that mean then, Ms. Hall, you're prepared to talk about bond?
Your Honor, if I can have one moment, actually, I think Ms. Rolak can clarify. I believe that she was mistaken, that not these victims, but our next victims on the next cases, the two that she have on the phone. I was waiting for a response back to clarify if that's what we were talking about.
Or she may have people who are associated with the Avery case?
Yes.
Okay, she's nodding her head. Okay.
Okay, so no, Your Honor, we're not prepared to have a bond hearing today, but I have spoken with the victims, and I do know their position on this case. if we want to have a bond hearing, but I don't know if they want to be a part of it. I didn't ask them that.
So, Mr. Adams, what we're going to do is this. I'm going to have Ms. Nelson, who is plugged into this session, email to you a waiver form that we have where you would indicate that your client, Mr. Mapp, waives his presence for a bond hearing. He doesn't have to do that, but if you know that's what he's willing to do, then we can have a bond hearing sooner, and it would be this format. And you could have folks who want to be heard ready to go with that. But I'd need that waiver filed before I'd be comfortable going forward on a bond hearing without your client. If he is unwilling to waive his presence, and it's his right to be present, we are administering calendars a few times each week across all the judges, and you could get your bond motion in that queue. It would take longer to have that hearing, meaning it would happen later in the calendar, but Mr. Mapp would be able to live stream in from the jail. So that's a conversation for you, your client, his family. I'm happy doing the bond hearing. If you get that waiver filed, and you could also do the waiver of arraignment, and really just in the next few days, we could have that bond hearing. And that would also give the state its right to contact the victims to let them know if they want to be heard. They'll need to have that message ready by the date and time that we settle on. But this was not on a bond calendar. It was on an inquiry calendar, so we could figure out what the right next steps are. And it sounds like, one, you'd like to have a bond hearing, and two, you're willing to waive arraignment. Is that fair?
That's fair, Your Honor, and might work out for the best, because I think my family would like to speak, so that would be
Okay.
good.
Then if you would let Ms. Nelson know the best way to get that waiver form to you, and then when you learn from Ms. Nelson what the date and time of the bond hearing is going to be, if you could let her know, actually, there are some people who want to make a statement on Mr. Mapp's behalf. We'll know that, and I'll let them into the Zoom conference, because in the same way that the victims have a right to be heard, certainly your client may have supporters who I ought to hear from, and I don't mind hearing from them directly, as long as we've all got notice that that's going to happen. Okay?
Okay, all right.
Anything else, Mr. Adams, in connection with Mr. Mapp's case?
No, I'll be in touch with Ms. Nelson. Okay.
Great. Sounds like a plan. Thanks for joining us, Mr. Adams.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. All right, let us turn then to position 3 on the add-on inquiry calendar, and that is State versus Javante Avery. I'm going to look that case up.
Yes, that's my case, Your Honor.
It is, that's right, and it has it's indictment 19 SC 170,000, all zeros on the end there. 170000. In looking at this, looks like we had a few first appearances for Mr. Avery. There's a bond motion that's been filed, and
He was a non-arrest. The incident is from April of 2019.
okay. And it does look like it is on for bond, and I see that Ms. Clark, you filed a couple days ago the waiver indicating that Mr. Avery is entering his plea of not guilty, and that you are on his behalf waiving his presence for the hearing. And so with his consent, we will proceed with a bond hearing in this case. Ms. Hall, are you ready to go with a bond hearing?
Yes, Your Honor, I am ready, and Ms. Rolak does have the victims in this case.
Okay, let me pull up the indictment, and then I'll ask you, Ms. Clark, to share with me what you want to share. Here comes the
On the
indictment.
record now, Judge.
Okay.
Your Honor, Mr. Forte wants to know if he's on the record.
Yes, please, Mr. Forte. We're on the record starting now. Ms. Clark, tell me now that you have filed the waiver of your client's presence for the bond hearing in this case, why is it that I ought to set bond in Mr. Avery's case?
Your Honor, this case has an incident date of April 27, 2019, and an indictment date of July 23rd, 2019. It's supposed to have been a armed robbery carjacking at the MARTA station back in April of last year. And I believe that there's a videotape recording which leads to Mr. Avery. He was 16 years old, Your Honor, at the time, so he's an SB 440 case. His date of birth is February 23rd, 03. He was arrested on April 14th, and because he had already turned 17, he's in the Fulton County Jail.
He was arrested April 14th of this year. So an adult under the current law when arrested, so he is at Rice Street, but the incident would mean that he was a juvenile at the time this allegedly occurred.
Correct. He was a juvenile. He was 16. He had just turned 16 at that time.
Okay.
If Your Honor was able to release him with a SOP, he would be allowed to get the ankle monitor and be supervised by Ms. Singleton. In addition, he would live with his grandmother, Miss Gloria Andrews, at 2479 Amber Terrace, apartment 237. Do
you know where that is? Is that in Atlanta?
Atlanta,
okay.
30318. Your Honor, with the school situation, I can't say, but if he was allowed a bond, you would be able to have the 24-hour curfew except for school and medical reasons in the court system. He was just picked up on that warrant April 14th of this year. And because of the total circumstances and the quarantine, we would ask that Your Honor give him a SOB through pretrial services under the supervision of Ms. Singleton with all the conditions and requirements that the court has.
Ms. Singleton, tell me what's
been arraigned yet, Your Honor. I'm sorry. That's why we waived the arraignment, because there wasn't a court date in time before the quarantine started.
Sure. No, I appreciate that. And that's one of the ways one of the things we've woven into the waiver of defendant's presence for bond hearing. You've now entered a pleading that does waive arraignment for Mr. Avery and enter his plea of not guilty. So we've addressed that through this proceeding. Ms. Singleton, question, what is happening for school for people under your supervision at this time?
Everyone is doing online school, Your Honor, even the ones that are in GED programs.
Okay, so in that way, it's fairly equitable and accessible in a way that might be more complicated if we're trying to figure out how someone gets to school but has a curfew, et cetera. You can be at home and do the same learning as every other student in the school.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, all right. Ms. Hall, what do you want to share with me about this?
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, the state's position is that the defendant stay in a no bond status or not be given a bond in this matter. Just to relate some of the facts in this case, you know, it was a hijacking armed robbery from the vehicle was taken from Miss Patricia Lewis. She was on her way to a soccer game, and both Mr. Avery and his co-defendant, who has just he has just been picked up, They both approached her and demanded her car. They have her purse. When they took her vehicle, her purse was still in the passenger seat of that vehicle. And after they took her car, that same car was involved in several other crimes in Gwinnett County. And also College Park has several enter and auto cases that involve this car. And there is also a possible shooting that took place that involved this vehicle, along with the defendant and his co-defendant that we have in this case. And we do understand that he lacks criminal history, but this matter alone, plus all the additional crimes that has been committed in this vehicle, the vehicle was recovered. Some of the defendant's vehicle items were in that vehicle, along with a phone that we think that belonged to the defendant. It had his information in it and everything. He was identified by his mom through still pictures that officers were able to receive from the model surveillance footage. I have not provided any of that information over to defense counsel because I haven't gotten it yet. This is the information I've been provided through the investigating officer. But Mr. Avery also admitted to the armed robbery hijacking of this vehicle from the victim, along with implicating his co-defendant. For those reasons, we feel like, especially with them having her purse and her ID, that there is a risk of intimidating her as a witness, because these are serious charges that they both are facing. But Ms. Lewis and her husband, Ms. Wallach, has them. They do want to speak to you on this matter. I don't think there was a letter prepared for Ms. Wallach to read.
So a couple questions before I hear from Ms. Rolak. Ms. Lewis was alone at the time, or her husband was with her?
She was alone.
Okay. You said that your understanding is that some of Mr. Avery's belongings were found in the vehicle when it was recovered. What makes you say that? Is it something that had his name sewn into it, or because the surveillance video showed a guy in a black jacket and there was a black jacket in the car, you're thinking maybe that was his?
There was a phone there was blood that was recovered from the vehicle that is now being tested through GBI, but there was a cell phone that was found inside of that vehicle. And when the officers got the search warrant and dumped that cell phone, it had some of Mr. Avery's information in it. Okay. Information being, I think it more specifically was his Instagram page and reference to his address. I don't have it's a very lengthy report, but it was information pertaining to him in the vehicle. I didn't get a list of everything that was recovered. That was more of the more important thing that was recovered from the investigators that linked him to the car.
You mentioned that Mr. Avery confessed, and in so doing implicated his co-defendant, but only Mr. Avery is indicted. You also mentioned that Mr. Avery and his co-defendant may be implicated in other crimes. Does the state know of this co-defendant? Is there a reason why he's not in the indictment if he's known?
Yes, Your Honor. So this has been a pretty long investigation from trying to figure out who the individuals were. The officers initially started going through a total of 5 different CCTVs to try to figure out who these individuals were. And the people, the still pictures that they were able to come up with from some of the video footage led them to Mr. Garrison, which is the co-defendant in this case. And when they showed him still pictures of the photos, he said to them that he wasn't a part of this because he was on house arrest during that time. And you can verify that through my mom. So when the investigators went to verify his alibi through his mom actually identified Mr. Avery as a person she knew in one of the photos that the officers were showing her. So at that point, they didn't have anything on Mr. Garrison other than a picture they thought may have been him. The mom didn't identify him in any of the pictures, but she identified Mr. Avery. Once Mr. Avery was identified and they spoke with his mom, who identified her son in one of the pictures as being Mr. Avery, they then connected with Mr. Avery. They got a confession out of him, but the warrants were taken out on Mr. Garrison. He had not been picked up until I think he just got picked up on his warrants
But warrants for what? I guess that's what I'm getting at, because this indictment is State versus Avery, not Avery and Garrison.
When we had Avery, they were still investigating Mr. Garrison. So
Okay.
when they originally took out the warrants on Avery, they didn't take warrants out on Mr. Garrison as well. The investigation continued, and I'm sorry, it's choppy. I'm trying to remember everything that I've read in this case, but it was continued. They continued the investigation once they received the information from Avery, but they went ahead and gave us the DA's office everything that they had. So then we indicted the case. Now there is an issue of having to re-indict to join both of them.
Okay, so there was a complaint taken out or warrant sworn out against Mr. Garrison. He's been picked up on those. We don't have grand jurors, so there isn't a superseding indictment yet that would connect the two of them.
Right.
Okay, all right.
Can you tell me what Mr. Garrison's first name is?
His first name is Deshaun.
Deshaun Garrison?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Clark, I know you are only recently on the case because, of course, Mr. Avery was only recently arrested. I assume you have not received any discovery yet. Is that fair, other than maybe a police report?
Yes, I received what was filed by Ms. Igbard back in September of last year, when the case first came on your calendar, or Judge Rita's calendar.
Sure.
And it had the police report in it. So I have that information about his identification, but only as far as the crime for which he's indicted. These other cases that she's referring to, I don't believe they have any, they don't have evidence that he's participated in those crimes. I believe it's the vehicle that is flagged in those other crimes in Gwinnett or South Fulton, not my client.
Okay, and that may be, I'm not weighing particularly heavily the fact that the vehicle was linked to crimes after it was taken from Ms. Lewis. I'm focused on what's alleged here, so I appreciate your thoughts on that.
And Your Honor,
yeah.
If I could jump in to clarify, I'm sorry, I had to go and check the information that I relayed to you. So when Mr. Avery was picked up a couple weeks ago, that is when the conversation was had and he implicated Mr. Garrison. So to clear up why he wasn't indicted, it was because we just found out 2 weeks ago.
Got it. So I would like to hear from Ms. Lewis and her husband. That's going to be complicated the way things are set up right now, because my experience is that if we try to beam what they're saying through Ms. Rolak's connection, Mr. Forte is going to put his hands up because it will be hard to hear them. What we have done historically, meaning in the last few weeks, is that Ms. Rolak relays what they have to say. I'm willing to give it a try. The other option would be they could try to patch in so they could be heard more directly. If you want to spend a moment, Ms. Rolak, talking with Ms. Lewis and her husband, it's real important that Mr. Forte be able to hear what they're saying, because if I am relying on it, it needs to be part of the record if someone in the future needs to review what was discussed.
So Judge, they're already on the link. I'm not sure how they can connect so that you can hear them.
So let me see here.
Is that correct, Patricia? Patricia.
I don't see anyone in the waiting room.
She says she can talk on the phone.
Okay, well, we can see if that works, but if Mr. Forte has trouble hearing Ms. Lewis, then Ms. Lewis is going to need to basically relay through you, Ms. Rolak, her concerns, okay?
Okay.
All right, and Mr. Forte, just hold up a hand if it's not sufficiently audible, and we'll work out a different way. Thank you.
Ms. Lewis, can you start? Hello?
So
Patricia,
I
can
can
you
hear
go
the
ahead?
YouTube channel in the background.
I can too.
That's
You're gonna have
awkward.
to turn off the YouTube channel in the background.
Sound has to be off. Hello?
Okay,
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Judge, can you hear?
I can, so far.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Is this to talk about his bond?
Yes, how you feel about bond?
Well, I don't think he should be granted bond. I think he's a danger to society. I will tell you, I've been in therapy ever since this happened. You know, I was alone in a parking lot at a MARTA station, and I felt like I should be somewhat safe during the day. And the fact that he would do this in a parking lot during the day with security patrol and security cameras present is pretty brazen. So I'm concerned about him doing that to other people. I had also come from a Habitat for Humanity house where I was doing volunteer work for the less fortunate when this happened, and I don't do that stuff anymore. You know, it's a ripple effect. Several people working on the project with me because of what happened to me don't do volunteer work anymore. So I don't think he should be out. He knows where I live, and it's a very real concern for me.
Ms. Lewis, can you hear me?
Yeah.
What time of day was it when this happened, ballpark?
It was about 4 o'clock in the afternoon on a weekend. I was
Okay.
going to the Atlanta United game, and you know, a lot of people use MARTA to go to those football games, and I thought I should be safe there, but I clearly wasn't.
Okay.
And Ms. Hall brought up a very good point. These people had my driver's license, they have my credit cards and everything. They know where I live.
Well, Ms. Lewis, I appreciate you taking time to patch in today, and this approach worked. I could hear you. It looked like Mr. Forte could as well. He didn't ask us to pause. So thank you for speaking clearly and slowly, and I think meaningfully expressing how this has affected you and what your concerns are. It's important that I hear those. So thank you for taking the time.
Can my husband say a few words?
If he can speak as clearly and slowly as you, then he may.
Okay, he's English, so just listen. Thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Lewis, can you give us your first name, please?
My name is Michael Lewis.
Michael Lewis?
Yes.
Okay. What did you want to add to what your wife said?
Basically, that I've known my wife for a long time. This has affected her extremely hard. She's been in counseling. She's scared to go out. She's scared to be left in public spaces. Even a parking lot of Publix or Kroger scares her. And she's just a changed woman because of what these kids have done.
I appreciate you sharing that. You have a closer perspective than any of us as to how this may have affected her. And it sounds like it was very traumatic. Regardless of who did it, what happened has to have been a real upsetting and frightening event.
It really was. We thank you for your time today.
You're welcome. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Ms. Hall, anything else you want to add?
Nothing else from the state, Your Honor.
Ms. Clark, tell me if there's anything you would like to share in closing on the question of Mr. Avery's bond.
Only, Your Honor, that he has been out for approximately a year since the incident occurred, and that he had no contact whatsoever with the victim in this case, and that if he's given a bond, with an ankle monitor and the supervision of Ms. Singleton, we should be able to monitor him. I don't think that they need to fear him trying to find her and locate her, since he was out for approximately a year from the incident date. And he's not a flight risk, or I don't believe to intimidate witnesses. And I believe that he would be a good candidate for the ankle monitor SOB.
Okay. Ms. Crawford, do you have any adult criminal history for Mr. Avery? He's only been in that category, adult, for, excuse me, about 2 months now.
Good morning, Judge. He has no record found with probation.
Okay.
Your Honor,
And Ms. Hall, I don't know if you had a chance to try to get access to any juvenile records?
I'm still waiting for them to, for a return on that, Your Honor.
Okay.
Your
All
Honor,
right.
I have those. Sorry.
Ms.
What's
Singleton.
I didn't hear you. What? Did you say something, Ms. Singleton?
Yes, I have his history.
Oh,
Okay. And what does that show?
Yes, Your Honor. To clarify one thing, he was actually arrested on the 10th. He was brought to Metro because they thought that he was still 16.
Okay.
And then I was notified and they moved him to the jail on the 13th. But I think his booking may actually show for the 14th, but he came into the jail later in on the 13th.
Okay.
His juvenile history is as follows. He has a October the 25th, 2017 criminal attempt, criminal trespass, and possession of tools. That was a attempted burglary that was reduced down to those charges. He has a burglary from February the 27th of 2018. The first case was closed, Your Honor. The second case, the burglary from February 27, 2018, he was placed on probation. And I did speak with the probation officer, and I can provide some information that she told me. He also has a violation of probation from October the 19th of 2018. On his probation, he was ordered to obey the law, cooperate with probation, attend school. He was to carry an attendance card at school so that each class could mark off that he was attending, because he's had prior attendance issues. And he had a 7 p.m. curfew, and he was to participate in a program that they hold on Saturdays at juvenile court for mentoring and drug treatment and different things of that nature. He violated all conditions of his bond.
You say bond, you mean probation?
I'm sorry, of his probation. I apologize.
Okay.
He violated all conditions of the probation. He was, his mother contacted the probation officer and stated that she didn't know where he was. That was on October the 5th, 2018. He refused to cooperate with the probation officer, and that he failed to report to an appointment that he had with her around that same time. He was not attending school regularly. He was, of course, not carrying the attendance card. He was violating the 7 p.m. curfew that he had, and he did not participate in the Saturday program. He also has a, he had some cases that were sealed, Your Honor. So that is all the cases that he had, that he was placed on probation. When I spoke to his probation officer, Ms. Robinson, she stated that he was always polite and respectful. All the teachers at the school would categorize him as polite and respectful. However, he would come to school every day, but he would attend no classes. It was more of a social setting for him. She had known him for 2 years. She had supervised him since he was in middle school. He was at North Atlanta at one point and asked to withdraw because of his attendance. He then started attending Douglas, and he did continue to go to the school, but did not attend. I did let her know that he was having a bond hearing today. They have closed their case unsuccessfully with him. She did want the court to know that she felt like that his environment was problematic. I spoke with his grandmother. He has not actually lived with her. His mother is currently in custody, and so she's due out in May. But his grandmother said that he could live with her, that during the last year, she's always known that he would contact her regularly, but he knew that there was a warrant pending. And so he had stopped going to school, but she was aware of where he was and that she would be acceptable to him coming to the address that Ms. Clark provided to the court.
What does it mean that a case is sealed? I mean, I know what that means, it's sealed, but why would a case be sealed? Because it's old or because it's top secret or what?
My understanding of it on this particular situation, there's multiple reasons that I've seen come up on different juvenile cases, but in this particular situation, through speaking with Ms. Robinson, there were some cases that were sealed for warrant of prosecution and were actually sealed and dismissed and not to even be shown on his record. The record that I received ended up having one case still showing. It is a nonviolent crime. The others, and that's the only reason why I know of it, but she did make sure she let me know because anything sealed is not to be mentioned.
Got it. Okay, and that makes sense. I mean, if it's something that wasn't further prosecuted, it shouldn't be weighed against the young man's situation.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, well, thank you. That's very thorough and helpful. So Ms. Clark, at this point, I'm going to decline to set a bond, but I am going to ask Ms. Hall to let us, you and me, know when you might be able to get some more discovery. And when you get that and review it, if you think that there's something we ought to discuss again, for example, if you review what sounds like your client's confession and it doesn't look like that, it looks like he says, no, I didn't have anything to do with it. In fact, here was my plane ticket and I was in New Orleans at the time, then we ought to speak again. But my concerns are, one, we do have a little bit of a recent history of trouble with the burglary in February of 18, and then the way probation didn't work out for Mr. Avery. So he's not suddenly hitting our radar with no issues preceding that. And it would have surprised me if, in fact, there were no issues that preceded it. But of course, he's hit our radar in a pretty scary way. At least the allegations are scary. And while it's good that grandmother is willing to help take care of Mr. Avery, it sounds like he was aware of this warrant, and the situation sounds pretty serious for him. And I am worried about the family structure's ability to keep Mr. Avery out of trouble. I don't think he's going to disappear, but I'm not confident that he wouldn't end up with some of the same young men, and we'd see some of the same type of incidents occurring again. And they seem to have gotten a little more serious, at least as the allegations go, than just a burglary. That said, I'm happy to revisit this with you and with Ms. Hall if after you get some discovery, you think that there's another part of the story that ought to be shared.
I need to let Your Honor know now that she's injected Mr. Garrison, that there might be a conflict.
Okay.
If I could get the spelling of his first name to make sure, I think our public defenders already represent Mr. Garrison on other charges.
The first name is spelled D''SHAWN.
Okay.
Do you know, Ms. Hall, if he is a juvenile or an adult?
He's an adult now.
He's an adult.
Okay. So, and he's been arrested, so he'd be at Rice Street now.
He's at Wright Street now, Your Honor.
Okay. So I guess, Ms. Clark, that I appreciate you flagging that. You're going to need to research that one, and it may be that we need to get conflict counsel for Mr. Avery. If you could let Ms. Nelson know what your research shows. In the meantime, Ms. Hall, how soon could you get to Ms. Clark the additional discovery that you have?
So I don't have any of the supplemental discovery, Your Honor. That is, I requested that through Mata Police Department, and I'm waiting for a return from them.
Okay.
So all the information I was relaying was the information I got from the investigator and just what I read in the very lengthy report.
Okay. The lengthy report that Ms. Iqbal had and thus Ms. Clark ought to have?
Yes.
Okay. But we know there's something more recent because Mr. Garrison has been implicated, Mr. Avery was arrested, et cetera. What is MARTA telling you about how soon they can get you that information?
Well, I'm sorry. I actually have that. It's literally one page, and 2 warrants. So I have that. I will send that. I will forward that over. I'm sorry. I was referring to the videos and all the different CCTVs, but I will forward the supplemental report over. I'm sorry that I do have. And then I will get the rest of the discovery once Marta returns or responds.
Okay. So please get that to Ms. Clark right away. And then I'm going to ask you also to reach out to this investigator who was nice enough to speak with you to get a deadline from him or her as to when you might get additional materials, whether it's a recording of the interview or things like that. These seem like things that could be transferred electronically, so you could get it and then we could get it to Ms. Clark. So that's going to be your due out, and let Ms. Nelson and Ms. Clark know what Marta tells you as to when they can get you this material. And then Ms. Clark, if you could please let us know if you confirm that your office needs to roll off representation of Mr. Avery.
Yes, I see Mr. Deshaun Garrison's name mentioned in the police report that was on file, but it did not say that anyone implicated him or there was any definite connection, because Ms. Singleton and I are familiar with Deshaun Garrison as a juvenile.
Okay. Well, it sounds like the implication comes from Mr. Avery, and that'll be in the materials, one piece of paper that you may get from Ms. Hall, and then hopefully Marta will be fleshing that out. So it's a long way of saying I'm denying bond right now.
Yes, sir.
But we can revisit this if the discovery as it trickles into you leads you to think we ought to have another conversation. But it also sounds like that conversation probably won't be with you because you may be conflicted off.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, thank you, Ms. Clark, for plugging in. Thank you, Ms. Singleton, as always, for your helpful information.
Thank you, Your Honor. Take care.
Ms. Clark, I sent you a chat. Can you send me your email?
Ms. Hall, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.
All right, back to our regularly scheduled calendars. So my thought is we take care of the probation revocation calendar first, and then we'll do inquiry, and then we'll do status. If anyone has an issue with that, or if there's one of you who only has one case, let me know you only have one case, and we can do that now, and you can get out of here, and then the rest of us will stick around. Ms. Hodge, of course, what case do you have?
Good afternoon, Your Honor. I actually have 2 cases.
That's close to one.
Marcus Ellis and Tori Bass, but they're fairly quick announcements.
Are they on? I see Marcus Ellis. He's on the status calendar. Bass.
Mr. Bass is position 8 on the status calendar, Your Honor.
Oh, thank you. Okay. Well, let's talk about those. Mr. Forte, you do not need to take this down. So let's start with Marcus Ellis. So that's Ms. Patel's case. Mr. Ellis is charged with cruelty to children and some other offenses. And he had his bond modified in March of this year. And again, reminder, since it's been a minute, with the status hearing, we're just trying to figure out what's next for this case. And is there something Ms. Nelson or I can do to help move the case along? The answer is probably not so much in this time frame, but or this era that we're in right now. But it's still worth poking the case a little bit to see what's going on. So what's happening from the state side?
The state has talked to defense counsel. There are some mental health issues with the defendant. This case is going to be a BHTC referral, and he needs to be evaluated. Okay.
Ms. Patel, you agree?
That's right, Your Honor. I am having some trouble conveying the state's offer to my client, but as soon as he gets on board with BHTC, I'm going to make the referral to the program so that they can set up an interview with him. I was able to email my client, so I'm just waiting on a response with a phone number. So as soon as BHTC accepts him, I think we'll be able to put him on for a plea whenever things get back on track.
So your vision, Ms. Hodge, would be track 3 BHTC, so not a diversionary case, but that Mr. Ellis would enter a plea and then the recommended sentence would be effectively probation with the main condition being BHTC?
Correct, Your Honor.
That's your understanding, Ms. Patel?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Are you having any trouble, Ms. Patel, getting Mr. Ellis connected with BHTC, or does he have to have an evaluation first?
So BHTC will first look at his history. So I'll at least let them know to run the GCIC. And then once I get a phone number, I don't think there should be an issue with BHTC communicating with Mr. Ellis.
Okay, I know they are doing virtual interviews now or intake evaluations, so they should be able to do that. You're having trouble getting contact information for Mr. Ellis?
So I have an email address for him and he did respond to that. I just need for him to respond with a phone number.
Does he have family supporting him or is he alone?
He does have family supporting him. He currently, one of the victims is his sister, so he can't have contact with her as part of a condition for the bond, but he's got a mother that lives in Atlanta. He has a lot of support in the community.
Okay, so someone ought to be able to get a phone number for him if he's for some reason reluctant to give it to you. The charges don't say to me accountability court, although I know on the BHTC side, they're a little more flexible. Ms. Hodge, are these aggravated assaults shootings, or what is the gist of the allegation?
It's hitting with a pole, Your Honor, for the aggravated assault. The sexual battery, I really don't think any of the facts support the sexual battery. So those two charges will probably be null prost.
Okay.
The cruelty stems from one of the victims that he swung the pole at was a child.
Okay.
And his sister, who is the mother of the child victim, did say that when he is using, that he is off, they have problems with him.
Okay.
And so there may be some co-issues between self-medicating.
Sure. That's what BHTC is for. So this sounds like a potentially smart resolution to his case. What kind of time frame do you think makes sense, Ms. Patel, for checking back in on Mr. Ellis?
I know in terms of me hearing back from Ellis, I anticipate in the next week, but I just, given my time with BHTC during quarantine, I would say perhaps first week of June to check back in and see if they've run the history, had the interview, and if we can move things along after that.
Okay. So I'm not sure when we'll be open for business again. I know that if there is a third judicial emergency order from the Chief Justice, it is going to suggest even more strongly that litigants try to develop ways to continue to make progress with matters short of having lots of people clustered in one location, which says to me that we need to begin thinking about taking pleas in bond cases where we get the accused plugged in the same way that we get the accused plugged in if he happens to be sitting at Rice Street. I'm not saying that needs to happen next week, but I think sooner rather than later, the judges are going to start asking the lawyers to think about why we couldn't take a plea in a bond case when we can in a jail case where the lawyer and the defendant are not in the same place. Mr. Ellis may not be a perfect example of that if it's going to be a little complicated for him to get through the plea colloquy. But as you are looking at your cases, bond and jail, keep in mind that we really ought to be able to do in bond cases, especially if the joint recommendation is probation, what we're doing in jail cases right now. assuming there is a meaningful way for defense attorney to communicate with client. If that's the hang up, that really I need to be face to face with my client for a while, I get it, that is complicated, but there may be some cases, bond cases, where we can move those along virtually in the same way we are with jail cases. And Mr. Ellis may be one of those. Let's get his contact information to BHTC, and I can nudge BHTC along. But what Ms. Nelson, I'm sure, has noted is that we will check back in at the latest in early June on this one. Does that work for you, Ms. Patel?
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Hodge?
It does, Your Honor, and I also want to stress that we still don't want him to have contact with the victims until we know that he is stable.
Sure, I trust that's a condition of his bond,
It is.
and he's still on bond, and that kind of thing would be reinforced at a plea and by the staff at BHTC. Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You bet. So that'll be early June check-in. But if we can get it lined up before then, maybe we can take care of Mr. Ellis. And then Tori Bass, which is position 8. That looks like Ms. Snyder's case.
Yes.
Another cruelty to children. And despite it being a 2019 indictment, I have a note here that says that the incident occurred 4.5 years ago. Here we are. So that doesn't mean it needs to move faster than other cases, but it's certainly not getting newer. What's happening, Ms. Hodge, from the state side?
I made a recommendation to Ms. Snyder today, Your Honor. She has not had a chance to communicate that recommendation to her client, but we do anticipate that this will be resolved through a plea, and this may be one of those cases that we can handle through a video plea.
Okay. Ms. Snyder, how able are you to communicate with Mr. Bass?
Pretty well. He's on bond, and I have a good phone number for him, and we've been communicating via email. I just need to reach out and let him know what the new offer is. I did let the state know what I was missing should he not want to plea. But yeah, this was indicted days before the statute of limitations ran.
Okay, but it was, and so we're here, and it needs to be resolved one way or the other. So talk with Mr. Bass, and if there's now something on the table that he is willing to engage with, then perhaps this can be one, if you, Ms. Snyder, and Mr. Bass are comfortable with it, where we would do a plea like we do with the jail cases and get Mr. Bass on his way. How substantive are the things that you are missing if Mr. Bass says he's not interested in the offer and wants this to be a trial?
Pretty much everything other than the initial police report and the warrants.
Okay. Well, if you could let Ms. Hodge and Ms. Nelson know sooner rather than later as to what Mr. Bass wants to do. If the answer is I decline the offer, then Ms. Hodge, you ought to, I guess, start working on getting a little more information to Ms. Snyder, but I don't want you to use the limited resources on that. If Mr. Bass says, you know what, that's an offer I can't refuse, let's do that. So please don't start working on getting the rest of the stuff to Ms. Snyder, unless Ms. Snyder, you can't meaningfully counsel your client absent those materials.
No, I think we can have a meaningful conversation without them, but they would be necessary if we're going to move forward.
Sure. Okay. Well, let's see if it's resolvable by way of this most recent offer, and if it's not, let Ms. Nelson know. And Ms. Hodge, were the requests that Ms. Snyder made things that you have or that are readily obtainable, or is this one of these, well, I'd have to go to the police station and they'd have to look in the vault, and no one can do that right now?
I don't have them, Your Honor. Well, I don't have the physical file with me, but there's no note in Odyssey that the state has that evidence. And because this is a 5-year-old case, I'm not extremely confident that I would be able to get those things.
Okay.
So hopefully I have made him an offer he cannot refuse.
Well, I guess we'll find out soon. Keep us posted, Ms. Snyder, and
Yes, sir.
I guess we'll pop this one back on sort of end of May for a discussion as well, if we haven't heard an update.
Yes, sir.
All right, Ms. Hodge, anything else?
No, Your Honor, and I do have another Zoom and that concludes my business. May I be excused?
Yes, ma'am. Good to see you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Take care,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Okay, let's get back to this probation revocation calendar. Positions 1 and 2, and Ms. Nelson sent me something. I think, yes. Okay, the petition. All right, Mr. Franklin, you are on with Mr. Smith's 2 cases. Tell me what your understanding of their posture is.
Mr. Smith caught a drug charge out of Clayton County May of last year. He served some time on it and had been waiting to be produced to Fulton to address the probation that he violated by catching that drug charge in Clayton County. So he has just under a year's worth of credit to his name. Me and Ms. Hall have spoken about this a good little bit, not a whole bunch. And I sent her documentation of his proof of incarceration from Clayton County. I sent that to her yesterday. So I think once she's had a chance to review it, we may be able to reach a resolution on this. I spoke to my client by phone last week, but since that point in time, we've learned that some of the codes, well, not some of the codes, all of the codes that we had access to for persons in custody have been compromised. So we're not able to call into the jail right now. And we believe that it's because they use the same codes from years ago from when contact was originally compromised, but we don't have an answer on that yet.
Okay. And when you say compromised, you mean
inmates have gotten
someone's girlfriend is able to use this. They shared it with someone's girlfriend who can then have a free conversation with her boyfriend rather than it being the lawyer.
That is correct.
Okay.
So some people other than the bar.
Yep.
Yeah, have gotten the things, and we've been shut down from that. I want to say it's been since Thursday or Friday of last week.
Okay.
So that part of things may get confusing. We do have the ability to schedule meetings for one-on-one visitation type stuff. So that we'll be able to correct that relatively quickly. But nevertheless, I do think that we will be able to reach a resolution agreement on this based on the nature of the charges and what I've been able to present to Ms. Hall. So.
Okay. Ms. Crawford, I have 3 petitions for Mr. Smith. There's also a 13 SC case. They're only on the calendar are 2 17 SC cases. How many open Fulton cases does Mr. Smith have?
You're right, Judge. He has 3 open Fulton County cases. The first one being that 13 SC 118208. There's 1 year, 9 months, and 17 days remaining on that case. And then there's the case that's on the calendar, the 17 SC 150334. He has 3 years, 9 months, and 18 days remaining. And that's the same time for the number 2 on the calendar, 17 SC 150334. It also has 3 years, 9 months, and 18 days remaining.
Could you repeat the time remaining for the 13 SC case? You said 1 year and how long?
1 year, 9 months, and 17 days.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Franklin, you believe that you and Ms. Hall would be able to work the 3 cases out, meaning the revocation. And as I understood what you said, Mr. Smith's been in custody for over a year now, as a
Almost a
result
year.
of the Clayton charges.
Yes, sir.
Okay. It seems like it is work outable in light of the length of time Mr. Smith's been in custody, and he's staying in custody until we sort this out. So what do you still need to do beyond getting in touch with him? Or is that really it? You just need to be able to talk to the guy.
I need to confirm that it's cool with Cassie. We loosely discussed just continuing him or revoking him for the time that he served. So getting the verbiage on that right, and then just making sure that I get the word from him to be able to go forward with this.
Okay, well, the verbiage isn't going to be real complicated. I think I can help with that.
I mean, just in terms of how I relate to him so that I'm related to him accurately.
Okay. And the basis, I'm looking at the petitions, the basis for the revocation would be the Clayton charges, which was drugs, marijuana, misdemeanor, cocaine, and then he didn't do the Metro Atlanta Day Reporting Center. Okay. That all seems fairly well aligned to me. Ms. Hall, anything you want to add as to Mr. Smith?
No, Your Honor, everything counsel said is correct. This is pretty worked out once he can relay all the information.
So how did he get on this calendar if I thought it would be on this calendar because one of the 2 of you said, we've worked this one out. It was Ms. Nelson saying, we've got a guy sitting in jail and we better make sure it's moving along.
I know that one of his cases was a back to McBurney case, the 13 SC.
Wow.
So that might have triggered something.
Okay.
Although
it was great to have him back.
That's the only thing I could guess.
Okay. I mean, I think it's good we're talking about the guy because he can't go anywhere until we work it out. It's time. It looks like Judge Carnesale signed that one, but that's all good. Okay. So what makes sense, Mr. Franklin? I don't want to put it on the calendar again until it's ready. Do we just let Ms. Nelson know if it's something that's a go?
Yes, I will figure out some way to get in touch with him by the end of the week, even if it's having to kind of talk through his mom who calls him and calls me and all this kind of stuff.
Do you feel that the sheriff's office knows how important it is to fix this phone situation, or do some judges need to reach out?
I think they know it's important.
Okay.
I think they just want to make sure that it's used as designed.
Sure.
So they have whatever investigation going on, and the information I have, of course, is secondhand.
Right.
But I don't think it'll hurt if you were to kind of inquire and say, hey, I heard about this issue.
Yeah.
Is there a timeline on it? But I know that we have our own people kind of pushing on the jail to kind of keep it going, or push on Securus to keep it going.
Okay. Good. Well, I may bug someone, but it sounds like they're aware and hopefully working on it. All right, so I'll have Ms. Nelson bug you if a couple weeks have gone by and we don't have an update on Mr. Smith.
Yes, sir.
Okay. How about Gary Tinsley?
Mr. Tinsley was actually continued on probation on April 16th of this year. The stipulation order that was signed basically said he's going to be continued for now, but if this ever turns into a conviction, then he can still be revoked. So he's not even in custody anymore. He was released.
So I see that Ms. Nelson sent that to me. So the petition was for a family violence, battery, cruelty to children arrest in December.
That case is still unindicted as of this moment. I have the CP number, and it'll, if you want it, I can give it to you.
No, that's fine. And so what they did out at the jail is what I've seen them do, which is wag a finger at him for getting arrested, and he is released, but he is informed that that doesn't purge the potential revocation in the future, if it's indicted and he says, all right, I'm going to plead to family violence battery, that could come back and bite him on the case for which he received, we'll call it this revocation light, while he was out at the jail.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, I don't think I have jurisdiction to do anything now then, because it has been adjudicated out at the jail, and he signed it, and Judge Brasher signed it. I can't countermand the chief. And we'll just deal with Mr. Tinsley if and when the complaint turns into an indictment. Ms. Hall, anything to add on that?
Nothing from the state, Your Honor.
Okay. So Tinsley is taken care of. That's it for the revocation calendar. Let's go to the inquiry calendar. The first two positions are Mr. Presley.
Okay, so
I have his paperwork here. I think we have a similar situation where he got a revocation light in late March.
correct. March 26th of this year, same stipulation agreement, same thing indicating that once he actually pleads, that he can be revoked for the actual conviction.
So is he out? It had down that he was in jail for 3/4 of a year.
He's still in custody. So he has a probation in Hall County that we were trying to get programming for here in hopes that it would convince us, help be convincing on his revocation in Hall. We initially tried to do drug court. He wasn't allowed in the drug court because his co-defendant in the case was already in drug court, and they had a policy of not trying to intermingle co-defendants through the recovery process.
Mm-hmm.
We found a private program. We tried to plead in January, but Judge Reeder wanted something a bit more structured. So we talked some more, realized that he did have some history of mental health. So we are trying to get him into BHTC. We were able to get records to Jonathan Tucker from YDC. We got those to Mr. Tucker a few days ago. And we're still just kind of awaiting a final determination of whether he will be accepted or not. And once we have that determination, position 2, that's the instant case.
Yep.
We're essentially ready to plea. My question, this was the one case that Judge Reeder had indicated she would be keeping, but I know it's kind of bounced back and forth because we don't know where, we hadn't had an indication about the treatment program options yet. So
Well, we'll check. I don't know. I'll have Ms. Nelson reach out to Mr. Williams about position 2. It's a lot of counts of entering auto, but the case ending in 414. Yes, Ms. Nelson.
Good afternoon, everyone. Originally, she was going to keep it, and then I think as time went by, she kind of she was backing off of it because she thought it was going to help it resolve that she could go ahead and make sure he got into a program or whatever. But since that didn't happen quickly, I just went on and calendared it.
Okay, so it's ours to sort out, and we'll do that. And if it's something that can be resolved and get him out of custody, great. If not, he can sit tight till there is a resolution. Ms. Hall, some of these conversations may have predated you, or you may have been in the thick of them in terms of sorting it out. I don't know what his criminal history is like, but it's a bunch of entering autos for this most recent set of charges. Is it something that you had agreed a program made sense, or that was over the state's objection?
That was before I got it.
It was non-negotiated.
Non-negotiated.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Doesn't mean we can't take non-negotiated pleas either, but it sounds like BHTC has some materials to chew on. So we're done with position 1. That revocation occurred. Number 2 remains open. Are there discovery issues, Mr. Franklin, or you have what you need?
I think we're good, and part of that is because it's not a case that we had intended on trying.
Yeah,
it's one
doesn't sound like it.
It's been one that we're working towards trying to figure out the best resolution for Mr. Presley and trying to convince who needs to be convincing about that.
Yep.
So we'll make our argument when the time is appropriate. And, you know, pray that if it's not what we want, it's not something so bad that he would consider trial.
Okay, so when is that time? What should we do next with this case?
So it's one of those situations where we literally can get the thumbs up from behavioral health court in a couple of days, or it may take a couple of weeks. So I would say 2 or so weeks, but my social worker and I do email frequently about this case with Mr. Tucker and other persons from.
Okay.
So as soon as we know something, I can make sure to email yourself, Cassie, and Miss Nelson.
Sounds like a plan.
So people know what the status is.
Okay.
But this is one of the ones that I would expect to plead as soon as possible once we get word.
Okay. So Mr. Forte, I couldn't tell if your fingers were moving or not. You don't need to be taking these down. I'll let you know if there's something that we need you to do. Thank you. So positions 3 and 4 are Ms. Brown, and that's Ms. Patel's case. Sis?
Yes, Your Honor. Yes, and we have 2 pending psych evals for Ms. Brown. One was recently signed by Your Honor in the first week of April. They wouldn't see her without ex partes being filed on both, and we had one on one. Last week, my social worker indicated that they are resuming psychiatric evaluations at the jail, so hopefully she'll be evaluated sometime this month.
Okay. So that's just on hold until we can see what the experts say about her ability to move forward?
Correct.
Do I need to do another order?
No, Your Honor, you did the order in April, so we're good to go on both cases.
Okay. So we'll put this on an inquiry calendar maybe in mid-June. If you learn something before then, let us know. Otherwise, that'll be the next time.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Position 5, I think, is something I need to work on. Mr. Brothern, I think, Mr. Franklin, you may have forwarded through Ms. Nelson proposed order. Is that right? Or where are we with Mr. Brothern? You're on mute.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
He has been deemed incompetent for the time being, and I submitted a proposed 90-day order for restoration.
Got it. Okay, so that's with me. I know Ms. Nelson has put it in front of me at least once, if not twice. So I need to sign the paperwork to get him heading in hopefully a direction of restoration.
Yes.
Okay. And Ms. Hall, you should always chime in if there's something about any of these cases. I'm not intentionally ignoring you, but I think we're getting the input we need.
Yes, Your Honor.
So I think that's it for the inquiry calendar, which gets us to add-on inquiry. And the first case, Jaquil Briggs, I think we're done with. I don't think it's our case. I think that's Judge Carnesale's case. I have signed an order that gave Mr. Briggs a signature bond for the case that we have. It's one where he's charged with the gun, but if you read the police report, they say he had drugs in his pocket or in his underpants or something, and the other person had the gun. But for whatever reason, the state indicted him for the gun and not the drugs. Be that as it may, it was a signature bond case, but he's not going anywhere until Judge Carnesale decides what she's going to do with the probation warrant that is predicated on Mr. Briggs being in a car where he was arrested, where there was a gun and there were drugs, either on his person or in the car. So Mr. Franklin, I know you have Mr. Briggs's gun case here. I don't think there's anything more I can do on the Briggs side. Do you agree?
Correct. There's nothing else for Your Honor to do. I did want to, I guess it's not required, but I did want to make sure it was okay with Your Honor if I reached out to Judge Carnesale to try to advocate on behalf of Mr. Briggs really.
That doesn't bother me. She'll let
Okay.
you know if she's got a problem, but I would hope that any of you, if you got something important to say about a client who's in multiple courts, would go to that other court to say that important thing. I promise you the prosecutor would. You should too. So that's fine.
Yeah, it was a kind of a first impression thing with Your Honor, and I didn't think it would be an issue, but I also didn't want to go over your head if it could be interpreted that way. So
No, I appreciate you asking. Smart to ask. I could see some judges coming down pretty hard on you for how dare you do that. But you don't work for me. You work for your client. So do what you think is right by him.
Yes, sir.
Matt, we dealt with, and Avery, we dealt with. Moving right along. So we get to the status calendar. And the first position is Cedric Taylor, and I don't reckon it says Leslie Simmons.
She's a conflict defender, Your Honor, so that'll be mine.
All right, this is a case from 2015. I know Judge Markle saw the person, terminated from Veterans Court. Track 2. Who does track 2? Okay, so it sounds like Cedric Taylor needs to be sentenced. Is that your understanding, Ms. Snyder?
Essentially, I'm not sure what the original sentence was supposed to be if he did not complete drug court, Veterans Court, because it wasn't listed on the referral form. I'm trying to sort through some things to see if we can't find if there was an agreed original sentence or if Cassie and I need to start from the bottom.
Okay, I'm looking, I'm sure I'm not looking anywhere you haven't looked, but I'm looking somewhere you haven't. But I thought that there had to be, if you're doing track 2, no, it doesn't look like it. There's a final plea, order of transfer, and then it didn't go well. So.
And on the referral form, there's a little caveat that says, you know, you'll be sentenced to the original agreed sentence. And if there was no recommendation, then it would be dealt with by the sentencing judge.
Okay, well, that's me. Mr. Taylor's on bond.
Yeah, he's out in the community. There are 2 phone numbers listed on Odyssey, but they are not good. So I don't really know how I'm going to get in contact with him without getting him physically into the building or something, getting him notice somehow.
Well, I don't know how we would if, we would rely on Odyssey, and if maybe the address is still good. See if there isn't.
And I've sent a letter, but I, haven't gotten anything back yet.
Yeah, that looks like not a real stable address, but interesting. So I don't know. Does that mean that he would have a bench warrant? I mean, he doesn't get to just walk away from it all, but this also isn't. It happened a while ago. Ms. Hall, what are your thoughts?
I'm sorry I didn't chime in before, Your Honor. Actually, this is Nakia Sellers' case. She's currently
right, because she handles all the accountability courts.
Yes, I was going to relay everything to her. She's currently in drug court with, I believe, Judge Newkirk right now.
Yes, correct.
So I'm just here to listen and pass all the information so that everybody can get on the same page. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, I think the same page is we need to get this guy in here. I think there's a bench warrant for him already, although it says returned. I don't know what that means, that it has been executed, or.
I'm having trouble getting into Odyssey, but it does look like he was picked up on a bench warrant for missing drug court. And then when he was terminated, he was also given a bond. So I believe he's just out on bond, and
I think
it's
you're
just
right.
Never come back up.
Yeah, I think that's right. We've got, that's not the one. He has a $15,000 bond, pretrial services. So, all right. I'll talk with Ms. Nelson a little bit about it, but we do need to track him down and try to close this out. I would hope that, given the age of the case, it's something that's pretty easy to resolve. But we'll let you know, Ms. Snyder. Excuse me. I guess we could. Oh, he had a change of address. Let's see if that was reflected. a Hogansville address. Is that where you sent anything?
Like I said, I'm having trouble getting into Odyssey right now. I sent it to whatever the newest address was. So it would have been the one on that change of address form from 2017 when he
Okay.
posted his bond.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll confer with Ms. Nelson and we'll see what to do with this guy. All right. Well, you have position 2, Mary Ann Chelsea.
Yes, sir. This is one where it's basically a mere presence. So she is out on bond. Miss Iqbal was supposed to be looking into some things, but I believe this is going to resolve with something short of a trial.
Okay, what do I need to do to move us closer to that non-trial resolution?
I don't know that there's anything we can do because there's co-defendants on the case that we may be, providing information on. So
Okay.
I think it may be dependent on the co-defendant.
So let's see, 39495. So Alcantara, one co-defendant, got null prost. Solorzano is on the lam, and then there's your client. So, I guess one way to think about it is that I could just leave it alone and the state wouldn't do anything. And then if this Solorzano guy is ever found, then that would be a chance for your client to do something valuable that would help her disposition. But then the case just sits open. What happens if this gets onto a final plea calendar?
I don't have the answer to that right now.
Okay.
I think Ms. Hall and I can have some more conversations about how we can resolve this without it lingering.
Okay. Well, lingering right now is okay, but expect to see it whenever the magic day is that we can be back in business and have people come into court, that this will probably end up on a final plea calendar, if only to force the issue of what's the state going to do? Because if they don't intend to prosecute her as someone who's merely present, but want to make an offer that would sort it out, then they ought to do that. But who knows? We'll see. This Solorzano guy hasn't been found for 4.5 years. Does that work for you, Ms. Hall?
It does, Your Honor.
Anything you want to add about this case?
No, only that I'm reordering some things that Ms. Mary Beth Snyder is still missing and getting answers to some of her questions. So just investigating, trying to see if we can get to a good resolution on this case.
Okay. Well, good luck with that from a case from 2015. In terms of finding the things, I'm sure you'll be able to work something out. All right, position 3 is Wallace Myron. Wallace Myron. It doesn't have an attorney listed.
I'll be taking care of it.
Okay, Mr. Franklin, what's going on?
I'll take care of it once he's actually arrested.
Okay.
It will be mine per assignment, but it's a direct indictment, and he does not have any arrests, so there should be a grand jury warrant.
Are there co-defendants?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Do you know, Ms. Nelson, if there's a grand jury warrant out there?
There is not. No, there's not.
Okay. Well, then I doubt we're going to see Wallace Myron anytime soon. I'll leave that up to the state how they want to manage it, but it's not something that's going to move forward anytime soon.
I'll take care of that, Your Honor.
Okay.
But I guess for the time being, would it be going to the judicial hold?
Right. Once there's a grand jury warrant in place, it'd be judicial hold, and you're not going to need to worry about it unless and until Mr. Myron meets up with that grand jury warrant.
Understood.
Tarika Day.
Your Honor, Ms. Day is my client. I've spoken with Ms. Hall about our position with the trafficking charge. We're certainly not in a position to take a plea just yet. And so
Is there a co-defendant or is all this on Ms. Day?
there is no co-defendant, but there was another person in the vehicle that was searched.
Okay. Well, it's already been on some case management hearing calendars. However, those may have flowed with Judge Reeder. What's the right next stop for this case? Are you missing discovery, or you're sort of happy that she's on bond and there's no final plea date?
So she was actually sent to her parole hold. So if we could put her on a calendar, she has been released, but I have not had communication with her since she was picked up by DOC. So if we could put her on a calendar for notice, I think by then Ms. Hall and I might have a resolution that could work itself out on if she comes to court that day.
So she was on parole when she got arrested for this?
Yes, Your Honor. And they revoked for 6 months. And I just don't have a good number for her since that release.
Okay. All right, Ms. Hall, anything on Ms. Day's case?
Nothing further from the state, Your Honor. Just negotiating everything, and there is one other thing I have to look into. I'm gonna get back to Ms. Patel on that answer, but nothing further from us. We're just trying to come to a good resolution.
Okay. Then we will get Ms. Day on a notice calendar. And I'm missing a page here, 4, 5, here it is. Okay, and then Marcus Ellis was next. We dealt with him. Sean Turner.
Your Honor, I've spoken with Ms. Hall. Originally, Ms. Iqbal, the only thing that we were waiting to resolve this case on was the MARTA surveillance video. The taking is of a MARTA card, and we believe that perhaps the video might not show that this is a robbery by force, and that it could resolve with some less severe charge. He has an ACT team in place that was put into place when he went to DeKalb for his probation revocation. And so and I know that Ms. Hall has on her end tried to get the video. So once Ms. Hall gets the video, I think we should be able to wrap this up with a plea.
All right, so Ms. Hall, I guess you've got 2 requests for MARTA. One is get me more stuff on the Avery matter, and then where is the Sean Turner video? Again, seems like something electronic that they ought to be able to pull off of some system, and we'll see where that gets us. So is Mr. Turner at liberty, or is he in custody because of the DeKalb probation?
He is at liberty, and we have maintained constant communication. So he's staying with his mother. They check in with my social worker once a week.
Great. Okay. Well, it'd be great to resolve this. What do you say about how has it been working with MARTA and getting things from them? I know the buses are rolling and the trains are moving.
Your Honor, these are the first 2 cases that I've requested evidence from MARTA. I don't know what's going on. What's going on with me? But I requested these are the two first items I requested from them, and I haven't heard back yet. So I don't know the answer to that. And I requested both of these items on Monday when we received this calendar. So it hasn't been that long.
Okay. Well, keep us posted, and that may help sort this one out. And Ms. Patel, you mentioned that Mr. Turner has an ACT team supporting him. You don't have any concerns about his ability to get through a plea colloquy?
Not at this moment. He's been good on his medication.
Okay, good.
Marta. I was supposed to be on mute.
That was not on mute. We'll spell it phonetically for you next time.
Right.
M-A-R-T-A. Okay, position 7, Kiera Burden.
Your Honor, I recently provided the state with some witness information, and I believe once they speak to this witness, we should be able to resolve it with a plea. Once Ms. Hall is able to make contact with that witness, this could probably be one of those pleas that's done virtually. Ms. Burden does have resources that would enable that kind of communication, just waiting for that contact to happen.
Okay, great. Okay, so Ms. Hall, how does that work? Do you contact someone? Does your investigator do it? It's not the victim, maybe it is the victim. Is that Ms. Rolak? Who on your team would talk to this alleged witness that Ms. Patel referred to?
I would. I've reached out to her. I've reached out to her since I've gotten the number from Ms. Patel. I'll reach out again today. I was hoping to hear from her before we got to court, but that's my job or my investigator's job. I like to talk to him unless it's something that compromises the investigation.
Sure. You don't want to become a witness, but you want to hear it firsthand.
Right.
I hear you. Okay. Well, let's try to make progress on that one. Tory Bass, we already talked about, and maybe it will be an offer he can't refuse. And that gets us to, I think, the last thing for today, which is Shelley Griffin.
Ms. Griffin's my case.
Your case, Mr. Franklin?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Aggravated assault, terroristic threats. It was a plea and arraignment calendar, and Ms. Griffin got bond in early December. So how are we doing with that?
I made a request to Ms. Hall, and I just got a phone number for one of the person who's listed as the victim in the case. Basically, it was an argument in the home. Ms. Griffin and her son got into an argument. They said she picked up a bat, swung the bat, and hit her brother on the hand. That's the disorderly conduct. I've talked to the brother. The brother says that it's kind of a situation where the son has caused a lot of issues within the home. He no longer lives there. I was trying to get the son's number, and I got it as we were in our meeting now. So I'm going to give him a call as soon as the meeting's over with. But I've essentially asked for a virtual PTI kind of resolution to this case.
Okay.
Miss Griffin works doing personal care work. So this type of conviction would affect her more harshly than the average person for this kind of thing. And she has no prior felony history to my understanding. So I think it's a reasonable request, but I'm not sure what all Ms. Hall knows from her end.
Okay. And it sounds like you're trying to get a little more information that you might share with Ms. Hall. Ms. Hall, what are your thoughts about the Shelley Griffin case?
Yeah, and I'm still trying to get in contact with the witnesses, or I'm sorry, the victims in that case. When I do make contact with them and understand what all happened from their perspective that night, I will have a conversation with Ms. McCauley to see if we can have, if everything turns out the way defense counsel thinks, then I'll have a conversation with Ms. McCauley and see if we can resolve this case that way. But I haven't been able to, I haven't gotten any return calls from these victims as of yet.
Okay. Well, Mr. Franklin, you might be able to encourage, whether it's the brother, or it sounds like it would be the brother, not the son. It sounds like the son is out. But for Ms. Griffin's brother to return Ms. Hall's call, because that might help bring this to a more rapid close.
Yeah, he has a different phone number than what was listed in the police report, so that might be why Cassie hadn't been able to get him.
Okay.
I'll share that.
Thank you.
Virtual PTI soon. Okay. We'll put this on our watch list as something we may be able to sort out. I think that covered everything. Did you have anything else, Ms. Hall?
Nothing from the state, Your Honor.
Okay, Mr. Franklin, anything else?
Not about the stuff on this calendar. I sent an email a couple of days ago about Levertville.
I think I signed his bond yesterday.
Okay.
Either yesterday or the day before. I've signed his bond, which will get him, I don't know how he's going to get to his sister's house, but it has, you got to stay at your sister's house. Actually only leave the house for medical treatment. And you stay out of Fulton County except to come to court. And you need to make your best effort, Mr. Veal, to coordinate with BHTC's desire to do an intake interview with you. So it gets him out. I'm not real confident that BHTC will connect with him now that he's out. I think it's more likely they connect with him but it was taking them too long, and that's not Mr. Veal's problem. So he'll be with sister. Hopefully he stays with sister. Maybe you can help facilitate getting Tucker and team in touch with Mr. Veal.
I definitely will, especially now that I know to look out for it. I'll reach out to his sister today, let her know to be looking for Levert's call to try to get him to her home. And then I'll do what I can to facilitate the interview while he's out.
Great. Anything else?
Not for me.
Okay. Ms. Patel?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Snyder?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Well, thank you everyone for dialing in for this one. Why don't we try in the future, if you know Ms. Hall and Ms. Rolak, that there is someone who wants to be heard, if you can have them connect with the Zoom call, I can leave them in the waiting room until it's time. They can be on the phone with you as well so that you're hearing them and having a back and forth if you need to. But Ms. Lewis was pretty easy to hear. Mr. Lewis, it was a little harder. And then I just know in the past you've held up this phone and you can hear yell, 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 but I don't know what they're yelling. It sounds kind of scary, and poor Mr. Forte doesn't know anything about it. So if there are folks who want to be heard, let's share with them the link, but let Ms. Nelson know you're doing that. And that way I'll know who the heck is in the waiting room. And the same goes for the other side. So if there is a family member, we're having a bond hearing, and there's a family member of your client who would want to say, it's a good kid, he can live with me, and I've got a job for him, and they're telling you they really, really want to say that directly and not through you, I'm happy to have them dial in. They can't just show up like Mr. Adams had those people do, because then in the middle of something, things can happen that are harder to control. So feel free as